Welcome. This is Ask Steve Anything. I'm Steve Chinsky, first of all. I'm a Microsoft MVP. I'm the VP Dynamics Practice Director over at Accelerant. And over the many years I've been doing this, over 25 years being in this community for Business Central and Nav, and then before that it was Navision, questions always come up. You know that. You email friends, you go online, you find somebody who's doing Business Central or Nav, and you kind of want to ask them a question. You hope for an answer. You look up forums and maybe drop some questions in there. And I thought, what a cool idea to take questions that have kind of been repeating themselves over this past year and kind of do a little mini Ask Steve Anything, little podcast, let's call it. But it's a podcast to myself, obviously. But I thought it'd be kind of cool. And that way we can get together maybe once a month, maybe every couple of weeks. I haven't really thought about it yet, but we'll get together. I'll get a list of my questions that people have been posing to me, and then I'll start answering them. We'll do them out loud. That way everybody here can learn the answers I've already given these people through emails and other communications. I've called them up and done Teams calls. But I thought maybe everybody should learn this. And it's a kind of cool idea. We can find out what's hot, in terms of questions. And again, in addition, at the end of this, certainly tell you where you can find me, email address, of course, and cell, as well as what conferences I'll be visiting and what regional conferences I'll be at. So you can certainly find me there as well. And hopefully one day, if you are listening to this and you can say, hey, Steve, I saw your little podcast, Ask Steve Anything, I could say, I love it, and say hi to each other and get a cup of coffee. All right. So I thought, let's start this off with a really simple one. And I kind of thought, why not pick something funny? And the funny being this, in this past year, I think I've done this probably 6 times already. I've gotten lots of questions. Hey, Steve, I've been using Business Central and Nav for so long, and I hear there's a fixed asset module. How do I get it implemented? How do I even do it? I've already been in the system. I mean, my general ledger is running. The world is running. What the heck am I going to do now? And the funny thing is, it's really simple. You would load up the module, all the fixed asset cards. You would certainly load in what kind of depreciation method you're using, straight line, double declining. You could certainly set up tax books. If you didn't even know that, you can actually set up another, instead of a GAAP book, you can have an additional book for, say, federal tax, state tax, and whatever you want. You can set those up as well if you want to. It's not a big ask and probably take, a few days of somebody's time to help you implement it together. You would load in the acquisition costs into the subledger only. So again, your general ledger is over here. Your general ledger entries are all in here. You've already posted your fixed assets. So accumulated depreciation expense, and the acquisition cost are already on your books. But you have a subledger over here called fixed assets. And you'd load the acquisition costs in here. In addition, we would run the depreciation just in the subledger. And you would use BC or NAV to do that. The reason we do that is because we want BC and NAV to true up those numbers using its own calculations and using its own depreciation engine. At the end, you get a net book value obviously at whatever close point. So obviously August is almost over for all of us. Let's do at the end of August. So I would book my acquisition costs through August, everything I purchased. I would then run my depreciation, and then I have my net book value as at the end of August 31st, 2024. I would compare that to my general ledger, since that is you're doing all that manually, and you'd see, does my acquisition cost tie, do my accumulated depreciation tie, and of course, is my depreciation expense for the year in question, just 2024, is that accurate? If everything is accurate, then the next month you turn on the integration. So the next month, you turn the integration on the depreciation book, and then you'd run the depreciation from inside the fixed assets, and it'll book the entry to, of course, the depreciation general ledger accounts and accumulated depreciation general ledger accounts. In addition, the fun part now begins. Now when I buy a fixed assets on a purchase invoice or purchase order, I can actually record that into the fixed assets, and it'll book the acquisition costs at the time of that purchase invoice or purchase order invoice being posted. And now it's fully integrated, both acquisition, depreciation expense with accumulated depreciation, as well as the fact when you dispose of an asset, you can also record that down the road as well. We're not going to go into that much detail because the question that was asked of me is, how do I bring the fixed asset module live when I've already had my system already set up for years and months and years or in the past? That's pretty much it. It's a really simple thing. One thing to note, and I always say this, yes, if my net book value is not the same as my general ledger, and most cases it could be, there are pennies, dollars, and differences. There are small dollars and differences because whatever we're using to calculate depreciation, whether it be Excel or some other system, maybe it's not exactly what BC or NAV had. The best thing to do is come up with the difference. In most cases, at least in my experience, it's been a few $100s here and there. I normally change the general ledger in the current year to reduce, obviously, whether it be the accumulated depreciation, and I just book the difference so that my sub-ledger fixed asset net book value equals my general ledger net book value to the penny. And I do make that adjustment only in the general ledger, so the two are the same going forward. Sorry, I'm getting over a cold. One thing to note, if you need help, you can always reach out. That's what Ask Steve Any Question is all about. Reach out to me. I'm here to help. I'll certainly can do a Teams call with you, and if you need help in terms of how you get the information. One thing, your partner will certainly help you if you want to do it yourself. Don't forget, there are configuration packages, Rapid Start for people who are still in NAV. You can do that, use the tables. A config package can then bring in the assets, can bring in the depreciation you're going to use, and of course the acquisition costs can come in as well through all of a simple Excel spreadsheet upload. If you're curious about that, again, reach out and I'll give you that information. How about another question? How do I process ACH payments in Business Central? Yes, it is possible to process an ACH payment. I'm not saying it's fully integrated with your bank, whereas you press a button and boom, the ACH payment is already in your bank and they're going to process the check. But the ability to create an ACH Nacha file that's following the spec of your bank is possible. Again, let's start from the payment journal. We all know the payment journal is where we pay bills. So we open up our payment journal. The one thing I recommend is for those vendors you're going to use ACH for, you'd obviously get the vendor's bank account information, bank account number, bank name, routing information. You would set up a vendor bank account on the vendor card. On the bottom of the card, in the very corner, there's a checkbox that says use for electronic payments. You would check that box. What that means is that this vendor's bank account, Bank of America, Citibank, whoever, is who I want you to send my payments to when you send my file to your bank to wire the money or ACH the money off. Now, after I set that up, the next simple step is I go to my payment journal. I would run my suggest, and I would filter by payment type. Normally, I have a payment method called ACH because that's what I stick on the vendor card, and I filter by my ACH payment methods. Now, when you're doing that, if you're going to filter by ACH payment method, on your option screen, when you pick your bank account, you pick your bank account. Let's just get my example, Bank of America. The bank payment type, it'll be the electronic check types you'd pick. And then when you run it, it's going to go through only looking for invoices that have to be paid to a vendor for which my payment method is ACH, and I've set up my vendor bank account. So it'll go through that. It should fill my payment journal, fill it out accordingly, correctly. One thing to note, there is a field in terms of sending the remittance advice. In most cases, you would set that up on the vendor so that they would get an email for that remittance advice to them, because obviously when I do an ACH, there's no check, so I'm not mailing anything, so they can't see the stub that's on a check. So how do they know what you paid? Well, this is where you set up the remittance advice, and it looks like, again, it's just an email message saying the following payment went out, paying these invoices, and it'll get emailed to them. Coolest thing. It works seamlessly when it comes to that. So I've now filled out my payment journal. It's now filled out completely. Let's say I've got a series of maybe 8, 9, 10 ACHs that have to go out. You then would click on, certainly you would go into the system. You would then do your export, where you create your export file that gets created, and it helps generate the EFT file that goes to the bank, the Nacha file that goes to the bank. At that point, the emails will be generated to go out, so you'll get that going out the door with their attachments that go out to the different vendors that says that a payment is forthcoming. You'd then go to the action bar and you'd go to generate EFT file. It lists out the 10 checks. Let's say in my example, I had 10 checks. You'd see the 10 checks. You'd say generate file. When it generates the file, it places it obviously in your local directory because obviously it's going to save it locally. At that point, the file is in the correct format and specifications of your bank. A lot of people have done many different banks over the many years. Some are different. Each bank has maybe a tweak here and there that does make it different. Some are very unique. Some are not unique. A lot of them just do the same one over and over and over again. But again, this is something that you can certainly set up under the data exchange definitions and tables. I would recommend you reach out to somebody who's done this before. There are certainly there are videos on this. There are also handouts on this. I've done a handout on this before. I've taught this at some of the conferences I've spoken at, where you can set one up, and we used a couple of examples like Citibank and Bank of America and Wells Fargo. Again, they are common. Again, certain banks, smaller banks, are very different from, say, the larger banks, but again, most are roughly the same. After the file is generated, you would probably log into your bank, log in, and you'd go to the section that says upload an ACH Nacha file to the bank, and then they'll process that file accordingly. You'd probably get back an email confirming the file has been received and the file has been acknowledged and the payments are being sent forthwith. Obviously, you'd go back to the payment journal after you do all this, after you know it's been accepted and received and there's no issues. Then I go back to my payment journal and I would post it. Now, people are saying, wait a minute, Steve. What do I put for a document number? I mean, I have no clue. Normally what I do is I have a special number series for my ACHs. I just say ACH and then it's just a consecutive number because I'm not going to wait for the transactions or anything coming back from my bank. It would be too long. I want to post my payment journal quickly. So I just keep a consecutive number, at least in Business Central Nav, just so it's more of an ACH, just an internal number, audit number for the document that it went out the door. That's pretty much it. That's how you do an ACH. It is that simple. Again, if you're really curious about doing this, and I recommend it highly for those who do constantly have to log into the banks and they're doing it all manually today, you can do this through an automated process. It's so easy to involve the payment journal, the vendor bank account that you already know because you have to make an ACH, and just set it up once and you're done. And you create the file and you would upload it instead of typing it all the time. Let's say you do 50 a week or 25 a week. Who wants to type it all? It's just a file. And you'd set it up. And again, if you're curious about it, reach out. Ask Steve another question. Send me through LinkedIn. Send it through email. I'll give you all the information at the end where you can find me at the end of this recording. Let's go to another one, Steve. I mean, another cool one here. Sorry about that, guys. I'm getting over a cold, as I mentioned. One thing that was kind of curious, I got this a few times lately, and I actually got it when I was visiting a customer down south. He said to me, every time I go to try to do a warehouse receipt or a shipment, or I try to do something, every time I'm trying to, execute it, mostly on the shipment side, I'm getting these weird messages. It keeps telling me nothing to create or nothing to do. It happens on his PICs. It happens on various documents when he's trying to execute them and get them running, and they just don't create themselves. And I said, that's fascinating. And again, I've seen this before, and it does happen. Business Central, and especially Business Central, Business Central is going to create documents when it knows documents can be created, meaning you've got all the right information ahead of time. So take, for instance, I want to create a warehouse shipment document. Well, do I have a location set up? Is my location set up both at the header level in the FAST tab? Is it set up at the line level? Is everything there that needs to be there? Is my warehouse itself that I'm telling it to go to on the location card under when you look at the FAST tabs there, do I have require warehouse shipment set? Is that set? Because I'm not going to create a warehouse document if I don't have to. Now, don't get me wrong here. I can create pics and do other things. I don't need to, but if I'm trying to get these messages, nothing to create, a lot of times it's because you haven't set up certain things ahead of time, i.e. require warehouse shipment, i.e. the location wasn't even filled in, so how does it know where to create anything in the first place? Take, for instance, a warehouse pick, which is even more funnier. So a lot of people go in, they create their warehouse shipment documents, they click the word create pick on the screen, and it sits there and it goes through and it says nothing to create. It just stops. It just pops a message, nothing to create. And you're like, why? How can that be? Well, that's because there's no inventory. Why am I going to create a pick if there's nothing to pick? The system understands. It looks there. It says, oh, these 3 items, there's nothing on inventory. I'm not going to create a pick for nothing. You can't run negative. I mean, I'm not going to create that pick for you. So it doesn't want to create that pick. And obviously, a lot of times when people get that message, I always get emails constantly saying, this won't create, what's the problem? Then you go look at the items, there's nothing there to pick. So therefore, it does create the shipment, don't get me wrong, but you can't create a pick if you have nothing to pick, meaning there's no inventory to pick physically. So after explaining it to them, they get the gist of that. So you can create your shipment document ahead of time. It's not a problem. You can create, all that can be set up, but you can't do, obviously, the pick if there's nothing to pick on the shelf. And again, you can create these warehouse shipments and warehouse pick. You can create a warehouse receipt and a warehouse shipment as long as the requirement is, you want to do a warehouse document. You check the box, require receipt, require shipment is preset for you. So again, a cool little thing just to know when you get those nothing to do, nothing, obviously nothing to handle, nothing to create. Check, make sure your setups are correct. Make sure you even have inventory to pick before you even, if you're wondering why that message saying nothing to handle comes back. Let's do another one. Let's do 4 today, being that this is my first inaugural recording of this. And so let's do another one here. And let's have a little fun. Let's jump over to another subject matter. I thought it'd be fun. The manufacturing floor, this one was sent to me twice over 2 different people, and it was a funny one. This was the question. I'm going to read it to you guys. It goes, my manufacturing floor keeps yelling at me that we are picking components too early. How can I align the components to be picked with the operational work center cells that they are working in? Great question. I love this question because I'm so passionate about the manufacturing and supply chain space that whenever I visit my customers or wherever I meet with somebody for the first time, I always say, are you picking your stuff at the get-go? So you're picking it too early and it's just sitting around collecting dust, or it's not going to be touched upon until it reaches the 4th operation or the 5th operation, and everybody says, yeah, that's exactly right. I have to run in and get it, or maybe I don't get it and I have to run back and get it after the fact. And I'm constantly doing the yo-yo effect of, picking my components, bringing them back and consuming them. So one thing to note on a manufacturing production BOM and a routing, there is a field called routing link. What routing link means, plain Jane English, is I'm going to link to my routing operational step what components I'm going to need in that operation. So I'm marrying the two together so that when I basically am going through the picking process, if I'm picking my components, or if I'm going to go get the components, if I'm not doing pick and just going to go get there and get them, in my traveler document, it shows operation 30 and the 4 things I need. In operation 40, the 2 things I need, and so on and so forth. That each component will be within the operational step it belongs in. In addition to that, by doing this, not only can I pick things at the proper time or just in time that I need them, I can also set various flushing methods that are necessary. So for instance, if I'm going to pick forward or pick backwards, what that means is I'm going to pick my components and forward flush them so that they're actually going to happen in those operational steps using routing link, or pick backwards and where I'm going to back flush them as I leave that operation and close out that operation and begin the next operation. So it's a great way to not only attach the components to the right operational step, it's also a great way to consume them when it's necessary to consume them using the various flushing methods and operational steps that you're closing out and finishing and checking the box that you're finished. I love it only because it helps the operators not have to carry a box or a tub or a bin or a cart of a million parts that have to do with something that they're not going to even use until X operations down the road, and it's not necessary. Again, cool little trick. And it's probably not mentioned much when you're probably learning manufacturing in the beginning, but it's really important to know that you can do that. It helps you with, you can pick at the right time. You can be more, you can consume at the right time. And that way you can leave the inventory on the shelf just in case somebody else needs it before you do. Again, I know it sounds like somebody's going to steal your inventory, but again, it keeps the inventory at the right level for when you need it at the different work center cells in obviously the traveler document. We've been speaking now for about 20 minutes. I do want to end this with a couple of things for the next couple of minutes. We're going to probably do this again. We'll try to do it either semi-monthly or monthly. Probably just talk for about 30 minutes. I'm going to leave the last 10 minutes to a couple of things. First, this is a great thing, and I hope it's helping you learn about different things. If you have an idea or have a question and you want to reach out to me, certainly you can find me on LinkedIn. Just look up Steve Chinsky, and you'll find me there, not a problem. Number two, if you need to email me, by all means, please email me at Chinsky, that's my last name, first initial last name, at accelerant.com. That's ACCELERYNT.com. Send me a question, send me anything. I'll put it on our podcast here. I'll certainly email you right back, and we can have a Teams call if you're having a problem, help you out. If you're curious to see where I'm going to be for the next several months, I will be next week on Thursday in Houston, Texas at the Texas Regional event out there. It'll be a great group of people, BC people speaking on BC. If you can join us, it is free. It is in Houston at the Microsoft Innovation Center. So hopefully you can join us next Thursday if you're in the Houston area and you can hear me speak, as well as my BC3 Amigo friends, Kim Dallafeld, Rob Del Prado, and myself. We are the BC3 Amigos. We do have a YouTube video that we record once a month, and you can certainly find us on YouTube. Just type in the BC3 Amigos, and you'll see us. We do a recording. We've been doing it over a year now, and we're having a great time teaching people Business Central, talking with our friends in the community about what's out there, what people can use in terms of other apps and other tools that they might not know about. So please see us there. Obviously, after that, we've got an Engage 2024 conference in St. Petersburg, Florida, December 9th through the 12th. Just look up Engage 2024, search for that. You can register for that. A lot of great speakers, a lot of great information about the Dynamics community that will be there. So certainly see me there. Hopefully I'll see you there in December when it's going to be much warmer than people like myself or in Boston, freezing out you-know-what's off. Obviously, the next thing is Summit North America 2024. That's in San Antonio, Texas, from the 12th through the 17th. It's not that long. The first 2 days, 12th and 13th, is an academy. If you want to learn BC, accounting, programming, manufacturing, supply chain inventory, warehousing, security, permissions, fixed assets, all the different subjects, the modules that come out of Business Central, sign up for the Academy class. There are some that are 1 day. There are some that are 2 days. Go to summitna.com, look up the Academy classes, sign up for those too. They're very inexpensive for you to join, and it's a great way to learn concentrated, in-depth learning of that module in Business Central. Hopefully, I will see you there. I'll be doing a manufacturing 2-day class, so I'll be there on the Saturday and the Sunday teaching people that class. Then come Monday through Thursday is Summit North America. BC will have over 150 different sessions and topics to listen to and learn from. There'll be town hall kind of meetings or roundtable meetings. There'll be fast chats that are 30 minutes. There'll be 60-minute sessions. You'll be hearing from Microsoft as well, from some of the program managers that are part of the product that actually create the entire BC product. You can listen to obviously a lot of people, a lot of MVPs, a lot of all-stars in our community that know the product inside out and backwards. Hopefully we'll see you there in San Antonio. Last but not least, for now, excuse me, is Days of Knowledge Americas. First time coming to America. They're bringing over the Days of Knowledge that has been in Europe for many, many years. And their first time they're coming to America, we're going to be in Atlanta, Georgia, the 13th and the 14th. 2 days of concentrated training. Pretty much what I call the level 200, 300 kind of classes. This isn't beginner stuff. This is more of the advanced level stuff where people can come in there and learn extensively about Business Central. A lot of functional classes, a lot of some technical classes. They do have a 1-day academy, a 1-day training session the day before on the 12th. There are a few sessions there on, I believe it's some on coding or development. There's a few there on some generic subjects, I think on security possibly or telemetry. But again, great sessions going to be there. I'm going to be there speaking about intercompany consolidation. At Summit, I've got a couple of sessions, like I said, Manufacturing Academy, plus other sessions I'm doing there, about 3 other sessions. St. Petersburg, Florida, I'll be there speaking about Business Central as well. And last but not least, just to round out our conversation today, don't forget about our Doug regional events and Doug meetups that are happening throughout the United States. You can certainly look up Doug, the Dynamics User Group meetups or regional events. You can find out where they're going to be somewhere in the United States in different months, different time patterns, as well as the Community Summit Roadshows. Summit Roadshows, they're called. You can Google Summit Roadshow, and you can find out where they're going to be. Obviously, this month is August. It's already passed. It was in New York City. Next month will be Atlanta, Georgia. They'll take a hiatus in October because of Summit, the annual conference, where there's going to be almost somewhere between probably 6,000 people who will be attending that conference on all the Dynamics products, so more than just BC. And in November, Indianapolis, Indiana. And last but not least, to cap out the year of the holiday, we're going to go back to Houston, Texas, and be there as well. So it's been really great speaking with you. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you like the information I'm giving you, and I hope we see you next month. With another Ask Steve Anything. We'll go through another series of, say, 4 or 5 questions that people have been posing to me, and we'll go from there. But hopefully you can reach out to me and ask me your question, and you'll see that on one of our podcasts here. Have a great day, and see you next month. Bye-bye.